South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rock and dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grand View Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show, every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grand View Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grand View Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome in. Good afternoon, everyone. It is Sports by the Book Football Frenzy on a Monday or Friday on this show. Ryan McCormick's here alongside. I'm Jeff Parles. And on the far side of the desk in the Cowboy hat, look, the Cowboy hat always looks great on Chris Andrews.
You know,
sportsbook director here at the South Point.
Cowboy hats are kind of cool. I have to
have you ever considered getting a taller Cowboy hat than the one on your head, or no?
What, like Haas on Bonanza? I have not. No.
Go to True 10 gallon at the top.
I have not considered that.
No, the Cowboy hat looks good. And again, if you're coming down to the South Point, we're down here this week. The Cowboy Channel, we're using our home during the afternoons, getting everyone ready for the rodeo. It is, let's just say it's crowded upstairs, Chris.
Oh, my God.
Least.
I mean, just everywhere. Even getting, a coffee at Starbucks is an adventure. But quick story. My wife flew to Reno this morning.
Okay.
In the security line, 2 hours. Missed her flight. I mean, a lot of people did, and she said, Southwest was very accommodating. They put her on the next flight to Reno.
Oh, man.
Because a lot of people missed flights.
So I saw was either Vital Vegas or Las Vegas Locally. I don't remember which one of those accounts. I think it was Las Vegas Locally. Tweeted out a video of the Southwest counter, and I just assumed there was something wrong with Southwest. I legitimately went to my search of did Southwest have a total meltdown or something?
So she knows what's going on down here. She goes, listen, there's 1 million Cowboys leaving and about 2 million coming in. She says, so obviously we're gonna have another big week here.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of people. I would imagine the middle of the week will be a little bit calmer for people leaving town, but coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
only
got the sheet
crazy.
this morning. There's one day that we are actually down to 97.5% occupancy.
Whoa! What happened? What happened?
We have to have a telethon for Mr. Gone. It's going to be a little rough. It'll probably fill up by Wednesday, though.
I would say so. So, Chris, let's start with tonight's game, and then we'll go back to the week that was, because it was a creative week at that.
Okay.
Across the board. Let's start with tonight. Well, a lot of Cowboys in town. They're betting the Cowboys.
They are betting the Cowboys.
As you and Vinny both said on Friday, from 6 to 4.5, and the total, not surprisingly either, getting bet up as well to 51.
Yeah, we're up to 51. I think we're the high water mark in town.
You are, along with one other book at 51.
One other book. Okay, yeah. So, and not a ton of money, but it's all on the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's not surprising. All I'll say is I wish.
Ryan, don't get jumped with that shirt. You should be okay.
I don't necessarily know if that's the right side, but that's
Well,
good for you.
it's the Cowboy side.
Yeah.
Which the Cowboys, the Texas didn't cover on Saturday, so I would imagine that was a good game for you guys, right?
Yeah, that was a real good game.
SMU did not cover either.
That was a real good game for us. Yeah.
Man, you just needed to schedule every Texas and Oklahoma team at that point on Saturday.
In the FCS though, Montana State killed them. That was
Yes, I saw that.
that's my kids go to Montana. Well, so Montana lost, Montana State won, but that was a lot of fun. We had a lot of people watching those games up here.
Actually, speaking of keeping it Texas, Incarnate Word did not cover against Villanova, though.
Oh, was that? Oh,
Did not cover.
I didn't know. You know, honestly, because we have a lot of the Dakota teams are in
Yeah.
the playoffs, so we had a big crowd of people watching them here.
North Dakota State played this weekend. Both South Dakota and South Dakota State were in action, and the defending champions, Montana State, of course, were the number one seed again. And ran away.
They deserve to be. They're pretty good.
Oh, it's look. The FCS playoffs are fun.
Oh, they're a blast. They're great.
It'd be something else if they had all the way to the final at home. You imagine that? That'd be a lot of fun in the FBS level as well. Well, Ryan and I will go full breakdown on the game in about 10 minutes from now on everything. But Chris, I just want to start before we go to the NFL yesterday, which there were some creative results in the end in the NFL yesterday.
Yeah, certainly.
The conference Saturday in college football, really, we go into Sunday with the only debate being for who's going to be in the field of will they put the ponies in of SMU or is Alabama going to sneak in the back door? And the committee held serve and kept SMU in because they came back and lost on a 59-yard field goal at the Horn, which, by the way, what an absurd kick that was. That thing was good by 5 yards also. Yeah. You don't see that in college very often. And now here we are.
A true freshman.
It was incredible. Yeah. It was an incredible kick. And here you are now, Chris. We got 4 games for the college football playoff, which are 10 days start. Friday, Notre Dame, Indiana, 10 days from now, a day later, the other 3. All these games are north of a touchdown here in the opening round, which I did not expect that to be the case when we went into the season. Mm-hmm. But now that we saw the matchups, it's like, yeah, I get it. The only one that I know some people are quibbling with, but obviously it's not the way it's been bet, is Ohio State and Tennessee. Some people were a little surprised to see Tennessee north of a touchdown. I was not one of those people.
Oh, really? I made the game 7.
Yeah, I thought 7.5 was good.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I thought all the numbers were right there. Kind of like Notre Dame a little bit.
I agree.
Otherwise, I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I think the futures, we're getting a ton of bets on the futures. We've done some really good action today on the futures. We're getting, we got the places in Mesquite. And we've had some money on Arizona State in the futures. Some money on some money on Boise in the futures. And I'm expecting we'll get a lot more once we get a little closer. By the way, with all the Cowboys here in town, I think Texas has the easiest path.
Okay. I know you do this for other sports. Are you going to do the exacta result?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't thought about that, but thanks for.
Yeah, I got it. No problem.
Exact.
It's actually pretty funny.
Okay. All right.
Because I said to young McCormick about 20 minutes before the show, man, I hope Books in Town put that up because I have 2 sets of brackets here, Chris, where I have one where, all right, I think the winner of this thing, and this will be more realistic, that the winner of this thing will come from the winner of, if we get Oregon, Ohio State in that quarter, and Notre Dame and Georgia at the bottom of the bracket, I feel like it'd be one of those 4. And then I have the chaos scenario where we get one of these teams that we didn't expect to be there, not winning it, but making the final against one of those chalk teams.
Well, if you've watched college football all year, I think I'm going to put this out a little later in the week. Where I hate to say guess, but where I was right in my preseason valuations and where I was wrong. Right. Well, I was wrong on a couple of big ones. Arizona State being one of them. I thought I think you voted them the last in the Big 12. I was with you, or BYU, and I was way wrong on both counts.
Let me pull up my thing here. I have it in my email, so I'll get you that in a second. Okay. I'm pretty sure I had Arizona State 16 and BYU 14. So
we might quibble over a notch or two, but I was right there with you all the way, buddy. So
I think the most fun matchup that could happen with chaos would need to happen, but you see Clemson at the top of the bracket.
Yeah.
You see Georgia with a bye.
Oh.
They could meet up in the national championship,
Sure.
and that was the week 1 matchup that everyone said, "Oh, Clemson's not the real deal." And now Clemson went on to win the ACC, and that could be a national championship matchup.
Yeah, that would be.
You're right, but boy, I'm just
no,
looking
long
at
way
that
away,
bracket.
yeah.
There's a lot of interesting matchups that are remotely possible.
So just looking at my Big 12 preseason poll, it's a horror show. It's a horror show. Kansas still in the league. Nope, 5-7. Utah third. Nope, 5-7. Oklahoma State. Oh, actually, it gets even better. Arizona fourth. No, 4 wins. Oklahoma State fifth. 3-9.
Ooh.
But 0 in conference, by the way.
I think you might have just had those flipped.
No, I had them inversed. Arizona State, I had 16, and BYU 13. Yeah, not great.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but I'm thinking I'm pretty darn close to what you had there.
It's incredible. This is such a fascinating thing because this is look, I don't know how long this is going to be a 12-team field, especially with the SEC being the party that feels like it got left out, knowing the powers that be in college football. But I think this is the right size field. The games, would I have wished that maybe some of these other teams that ended up not deserving of being in the field were here instead? Sure, but you know what? That's college football for you. No one had Indiana in the college football playoff at the beginning of this year. They're here. SMU, same deal. Maybe Vinny did. He would have been the only one.
He might have. Yeah.
But everyone, and then, of course, Arizona State, as we said, projected last in the Big 12. But everyone else before the year, it's like, all right, well, yeah, Clemson. It was Clemson or Florida State in the ACC. Whoops on that end.
Yeah.
Georgia, Texas were considered 2 of the 3 best teams in the country going into the year. Ohio State, same deal. Oregon, another team that we thought would be in the playoff. Notre Dame, can they go 10-2 or better? They did. They went 11-1 with their only loss being as a 30-point favorite. But Chris, this is going to be quite the betting event, and I just am curious because nothing's March Madness because it's 14 straight hours on Thursday and Friday, and then 12 straight hours on Saturday and Sunday, the first 2 weekends. But I just wonder if that Saturday, the 21st, and then New Year's Day, which is always a great betting day. I just wonder if those days start to feel like the Sweet 16 days in March Madness or the Elite 8 days in March Madness moving forward.
Well, I think you have a very good point, and I think it's very likely that it'll be that. And considering on the day itself, too, January 1st and, of course, December 31st, we'll have one game. I still have one beef with the whole thing.
Please.
That the final game is on Monday after a weekend of the NFL. I still think it should be Friday before the NFL plays on Saturday and Sunday.
So the lead in.
Yeah.
The lead in for I can't really argue.
We're almost worn out. I mean, even now, like Monday night, and listen, tonight's a bad game. But a lot of times we get Monday night games that aren't very good. And speaking of that, you see this coming week, we got 2 games that aren't very good. I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Mr. McCormick.
Wait a second. We get to watch. We'll get the Ryan's Bears later, but oh boy, I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, wait a second. The other one's the Desmond Ridder revenge game now.
Oh, okay. I didn't have that in my notes. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And it's funny because the other 2 primetime games this week are awesome because San Francisco and LA's got some juice now.
Oh yeah, you bet.
And then Sunday night, Seattle, who somehow is actually in complete command of the NFC West, hosts Green Bay on Sunday night.
That's some defense they got, really. I mean, they got some questions on offense, but that's a hell of a defense. By the way, the more, we've kind of got it rejuvenated in our respect for Matthew Stafford once he went to L.A. It was kind of hidden in Detroit all those years. We didn't see him that much. But I remember just saying, watching these games, man, this guy, he's just tough. He's mentally tough. And, man, he's accurate as hell. And I always say there's 2 things in football or for quarterbacks, responding to, what's out there and accuracy. And he has a gun, too. So I mean, and it's got a couple of pretty good receivers that aren't hurting him too much. Yeah. Boy, that was a hell of a block by Cooper Kupp on that one pass where Nakua scored.
I mean, Nakua. I mean,
the
first touchdown, Nakua, that one on the sideline is one of the best plays you're ever going to see.
That was a great game.
That was the best game of the regular season, and it's funny. Well, just to take a book out of the old show you used to do on Monday, Chris, where with all the recaps. The biggest mistake of the weekend to me was if Buffalo gets that ball, like Buffalo can hold all their timeouts, score on that drive beforehand, that QB sneak really messed things up.
Yeah,
Because if you can't, the only time you can do that in that sequence is if you do it on fourth down. Yeah. You can't do it on first down and burn your timeout.
Brady was right on top of that.
Oh, yeah, 100%. That was Brady's best moment as a commentator.
His best, yeah, because sometimes he's mostly pretty good, but there's times when he's kind of not so much. But he was right on it. That was fantastic analysis. Which I'm sorry, isn't that what we've come to expect from Tom Brady?
You would hope
after all these years.
You would hope. By the way, Josh Allen is the first player in NFL history to score 3 touchdowns on the ground and throw for 3 touchdowns, and they lost the game.
Well, the Bills are the first team in NFL history to score 6 or more touchdowns and not have a turnover and lose the game.
Wow. You know who else scored 3 passing and 3 rushing?
Otto Graham.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Only other player to do it.
Yep. That's we're going back in the time machine on that one. By the way, speaking of that, our buddy Ryan McCormick this weekend is going to be in the Meadowlands.
Yeah. Good.
Maybe good for him.
Yeah, I guess.
Giants hosting the Ravens. I told you this when you walked in, Chris. The Giants have not been an underdog of this magnitude in any game since 1966. 1966.
Wow.
And the funniest part of it is, you know who the opponent was that was the 14.5-point favorite against him?
Green Bay?
How about the Cardinals?
Oh, my God.
You would
Jim Hart?
You would never have gotten that, right?
No, I would, no.
Again, for obviously Ryan and I weren't around at that point or far from it.
Even.
But we know the Arizona, Phoenix, Chicago Cardinals history is the worst of anyone in National Football
This would have
League.
been the St. Louis Cardinals.
I totally forgot.
Yeah.
I totally skipped the St. Louis
Yeah, this
era.
would have been the St. Louis Cardinals. And I'm thinking Jim Hart, that version of the Cardinals. And I'm trying to think who the quarterback would be for
If I told you his initials were CJ.
CJ. I was thinking Charlie Connerly. But
That is the right first name.
Charlie Jones?
Charlie Johnson.
Charlie Johnson.
That was obviously the Charlie team because the coach has one of the best names ever for a coach was Charlie Winter.
Oh, okay.
That's a good name.
I was 10 years old. I don't quite remember that all that much, but I do remember Jim Hart was a pretty decent quarterback for the Cardinals.
One of their defensive line coach was named Jim Champion.
Oh, okay.
They had some.
Wow, what an amazing
Okay,
name.
and who was their kicker?
What names for a team that ended up 8-5?
Jim Bakken for the Cardinals.
Their kicker.
I think he one time had a record for 6 field goals in a game.
Yeah, Jim Bakken.
Jim Bakken, remember him? Yeah. Larry Wilson at safety, number 8.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not quite that old and senile yet, boys. Check with me in a couple weeks, but not yet.
Chris, before we let you go back upstairs, just what do you this week college football wise is quiet? Obviously, we have Army Navy, which
A lot of money on Army, by the way. Yeah,
Army's much better than they are.
I know, but sometimes you think that they listen. It's always going to be their Super Bowl when they play Navy, but that was a pretty big game last week.
So I will say this though, that total's in the 40s, which we have not seen in recent years in that matchup, which kind of makes me think, oh well, maybe that will be an under by the time we wrap around. But there are 2 bowl games this weekend. And which one was that first name? Because it was a ridiculous one.
Salute to Veterans Bowl.
It wasn't that? Wasn't there another one too?
Celebration Bowl.
Okay. Oh, okay. No, I'm messing up my weeks of that. So the Veterans, the Salute to Veterans Bowl was South Alabama and Western Michigan. Oh, I'm looking at the Scooters Coffee Bowl, which is on Tuesday. By the way. So a little bit different in the namings. But what do you think? Since it's a quiet Saturday, do you think people will just come in because those games are on, have something go from your first leg of your parlay from Army Navy into the Salute the Veterans Bowl with South Alabama and Western Michigan?
I don't think we'll have much, but I got to tell you, and I'm just going to go on record right now. I am not in a hurry to do anything with these bowl games because we don't know who's playing.
Right.
And I don't blame the players. Even, you could see a guy like Barry Odom, and again, I don't blame him. He got a big contract from a Big Ten school. He's going to Purdue. Right now it's become a big money thing. It really started with the coaches probably 20 years ago or even more, but it's filtered down to the players. And I mean, I know from a fan's point of view, I hate it. But from, if you're looking at the individual players, we're talking 20-year-old kids, 21-year-old kids, I can't blame them one bit.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you got to go after where you're going to get the money from or where you're going to get the best for what you are looking for going forward.
Exactly.
It's not about sitting around anymore and becoming a player. It's about how you build for what you're going to do after school or where you're going to be taken after school. So, yeah, I think the transfer portal has done good and bad. It's just a matter of
They've got to tighten that up a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some things that I think need to be changed for the good of the sport, and in some ways probably for the good of the kids too. But it's probably greater minds than mine. I'll have to figure that out.
Chris, we'll let you go back to work.
Okay.
Thank you as always.
Okay, we'll have fun. All right, have a great show, guys.
We will. Chris Andrews, everyone. All right. While Chris is heading on back upstairs. By the way, Chris, you got more comments on the cowboy hat again.
Oh, really?
Yeah. People love the cowboy hat.
Any women? I don't hear or care about the guys.
Well, let's look at tonight's game here, Ryan. Bengals and the Cowboys. As Chris has said, the Cowboys are the ones who've gotten bet, which I think we kind of anticipated that happening, at least at this property, more so than any other one. So open 6, down to 4.5. Totals at 51 now. From a traditional sense, I hate that this number's gone up as far as it has because I thought at the 49s it was a great over. I still think it's a pretty darn good one, honestly, just because look at these two defenses.
Right.
Cincinnati's the worst defense in the NFL. The Cowboys aren't much better. The big question in the game will the Cowboys offense be able to produce enough, even against this horrible defense, in order to get you into the low 50s in this game? I feel pretty confident about Cincinnati being in the low 30s tonight. It's just a matter, can we get Dallas into the mid-20s? If we do, we're sailing over this thing tonight.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that sentiment. And I do think that the Bengals are a team that get at least 230 tonight. It's just a matter of, the Cowboys getting to 20. But the Bengals enter this one on a 3-game losing streak. The Cowboys enter it on a 2-game winning streak, beating 2 division rivals. But it's been a failure of a season for both of these teams. They both had expectations of competing atop their divisions. Cincinnati had a 4th-place schedule entering the year, but neither decided to pay their leading rusher for the past few years, and both Tony Pollard and Joe Mixon are having successful seasons with where they went. But these teams are being held back from injuries as well as, their defenses are some of the worst in the National Football League. Both are bottom 5 in scoring, and both teams are 1-5 this season in their own stadiums. The Cowboys have won 1 of 6 games in Dallas, and the Bengals have won 1 of 6 games in Cincinnati. But looking at the Cowboys, they are statistically much better on the road than they are at home. Everything is pretty much better on the road than at home. Their rush offense, their pass offense, their rush defense, their pass defense, and their special teams are all better on the road than at home. The Cowboys are being outscored at home 207-96. They have yet to score over 100 points in 6 combined games at home this season. At home, they are being outscored 34-35-16, averaging an 18-point loss at home.
Is that good?
That is disgusting. And I know it doesn't apply, but to take a look at on the road, the Cowboys are outscoring their opponents on the road 152-132. Okay. So they're winning on the road 25-22. But they're losing by 18 points at home.
How about
how does that make any sense?
Well, Mike McCarthy for one. Number 2, it's so interesting because, their only home win is the Giants, who are an extra level of horrendous. Yeah. And it's really, really, really ridiculous that the Cowboys have turned into this. Man, look, the roster I don't think is particularly good. And moving forward, I don't know what the success is because obviously Dak is going to be back next year. I think Dak is pretty league average for a starting quarterback. Lamb is a top flight receiver. Yes. You have to pay Parsons still. You probably need a new coach next year. Messy situation. And again, those numbers should start regressing back to the mean.
You would think
maybe even tonight. But boy, it's a long haul for these Cowboys.
Well, yes, you would think that maybe the Cowboys are going to correct themselves and maybe right the ship, but that's going to be a very difficult ask against this Bengals offense. That is the 4th best scoring offense in the National Football League. They score almost a half a point per play, 0.453 points per play. The Cowboys are allowing 0.455 points per play and allowing 5.566 points per play at home. So the league leader in points per game or points per play is now the Buffalo Bills at just over a half a point per play. The Dallas Cowboys are allowing 0.06 more than a half a point per play at home. So, the Cowboys defense has been the worst in the National Football League, and the Bengals offense has been one of the best in the National Football League. Also, the Bengals are the 40th team in NFL history to have 30 or more passing touchdowns in their first 12 games of the season. They are the only one to have 4 or less wins. 1 out of 40.
Oh, my goodness.
Their defense has been that bad for them. But I don't think the Cowboys offense is going to be able to keep up with the Bengals tonight, being that the Cowboys defense is so much worse.
So I'm going to do something a little bit different tonight, Ryan.
Okay.
Let's go to the anytime touchdown market.
Okay.
CeeDee Lamb's the best individual price at plus 150. I don't even think that's for debate. But tonight I feel like taking a lotto ticket. But not in the traditional sense that you and I think of a lotto ticket.
Okay.
There's no Luke Schoonmaker, who, by the way, apparently is the most bet multi-touchdown guy in this game at ESPN Bet tonight. Why?
Yeah, I don't know about multiple, but
Sure. I want to put some together here tonight. I think all the big dogs are scoring tonight in this game. Like, not the big underdogs, the big dogs like the best players in this game.
Yep.
Chase Brown is going to get in the end zone. Jamar Chase is going to get in the end zone at least once. If you want to take I wish the price was fair, but if you could find a fair price on Chase to score 3 times tonight, I'd consider it. But that doesn't really exist at this point. T. Higgins, I think, is going to score as well. All 3 of them. Put Lamb in there. Four-leg parlay. You know how little I'll throw out parlays on this. I think this is an absurd, even at the high total now, I think this is an absurd over tonight. I think we're playing this game in the high 60s. Now, I don't know how we're going to get, what the final score is going to be, because I have no sense on the side. If you told me Cincinnati won 42-24, sure. If you told me that Cincinnati needed to make a field goal, which, by the way, the biggest injury in this game tonight, for guys who we didn't know were necessarily out because of IR, is the fact that Evan McPherson, who even though he's had a rough year, is out. And the Bengals replaced him with the guy who's been the worst kicker in the NFL the last 3 years in Cade York. So if Cincinnati needs a kick to win this game tonight, don't be confident it's going through, because York, other than Matt Amendola, has been the worst. Those 2 guys have been the worst kicker in the NFL the last 3 years. So I have no problem with lining up a bunch of these favorites in the anytime touchdown market, putting a few of them together and go from there. That's probably what I'm going to do tonight, which means we're absolutely going 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4, Ryan.
or might get a really low scoring game.
Well, if that happens, it's just going to be frustrating, honestly.
Honestly impressive if it does happen. But looking at, shot down the board, I do like Luke Schoonmaker tonight. I do know that he is the most popular bet on ESPN, but the Cowboys are getting Jake Ferguson back. He is their normal pass-catching tight end. In the games without Jake Ferguson, when he was injured with a concussion, Cooper Rush targeted Luke Schoonmaker, and he also scored touchdowns in those games. But you also have to think if the Cowboys are going to get into 12 or 13 personnel, Schoonmaker is going to be right behind Jake Ferguson, that next guy up. And if they are going to get big near the goal line, I would like to think that it will be a secondary tight end to get the look instead of Jake Ferguson, who also has yet to score a touchdown this season. So I have no problem taking the $8 on Luke Schoonmaker tonight. I think he does find the paint. But looking at the guys up at the top, I agree with you. I love Jamar Chase tonight. No problem with T. Higgins as well. But I am wearing a Joe Burrow jersey for a reason. I do like the Bengals tonight to cover the 4.5 that we're down to now. I like them to cover the 6.
Okay.
I really don't think the Cowboys keep up. So
Looking at props, regular props. Let's go to QBs. First, Burrow, who's obviously having, by the way, I will tell you, I took a piece, and this may be just delusion more so than anything for me. I took a piece of Joe Burrow at 150-1 to be the offensive player of the year. Here's my reasoning with that, and it may seem bizarre, but I just wonder, depending on who the voters are, I just wonder, are the voters going to mess this up in the MVP and then mess it up again in the offensive player of the year market? Now, if I were voting, Josh Allen is the MVP, Saquon Barkley is the offensive player, and there's really no argument whatsoever at either end of this. Yep. And quite frankly, Barkley is the correct minus. He's like minus 1,500 at this point, or more than that. 15,000 at this point. Some ridiculous number at some of these books. But I took a piece of Burrow, who I don't know. Burrow could end up throwing 45 touchdowns this year. So again, not necessarily sure that it will happen, but it was 150-1. Pizza money, sure, yeah, why not? With that said, then I need all the numbers here tonight, Ryan. Yep. So I would like over 277.5 on that, over 24.5 completions, over 1.5 passing touchdowns, which find it a 2.5 instead of a 1.5. Don't lay minus 215 on that. And the longest completion, and we'll get to Chase in a little bit, the longest completion over 38.5 feels, even though it is very high, feels quite good to me tonight because someone, whether it's Chase or Higgins, is hitting a 55-yard play at some point in this game.
Yeah, when I first saw that 38.5, I was like, I did kind of jump at it like, whoa, way too high, and kind of thought of it as that same thing that we did with C.J. Stroud a couple weeks back, where you take the under on the passing longest completion, but over on the longest reception. But I don't know if that will be the case tonight. I do like Joe Burrow. Don't know if I'll actually play it minus 120, but I do like the over 38.5 longest completion because Joe Burrow is 9-3 this season on that longest completion. He has 5 straight overs, and the Cowboys have allowed 13 such completions this season. They have allowed over 38. They've allowed at least a 39-yard completion in 7 of their 12 games this season, so more than half. And Joe Burrow's done it in 75% of his games and in 5 straight. So no problem there with Joe Burrow, longest completion over 30.5. But looking at some of his other numbers, that 36.5 attempts, 7-5 this season, 5 straight overs. QBs against the Cowboys, not the specific line of 36.5, but QB's lines against the Cowboys, wherever it may be, are 6-6 this season against the Cowboys. 24.5 completions. Joe Burrow has gone over in 7 of 12 this season. Again, 5 straight overs. Cowboys against quarterbacks have only allowed them to go over in 5 of 12. The passing yards, 277.5. Joe Burrow has gone over in 5 of the 12, over in 3 straight. And again, 6-6 are the Cowboys to that number. Jeff had mentioned that minus 215, very hefty price on Joe Burrow to throw at least 2 touchdown passes. He's done that in 9 of 12 games this season, done so in 4 straight. But his number to throw at least 3 touchdown passes tonight you should be able to get plus 160, and I like that one a lot. I like Joe Burrow to throw 3 touchdown passes tonight, plus 160. He's done so in 4 straight. And going against one of the worst defenses in the National Football League in the Cowboys. And then looking at his interception, the juice is to the no. Joe Burrow has thrown interceptions in 5 of 12 this season. Dallas has forced an interception in 7 of 12 this season. So with how pass-happy the Bengals offense is, it's just a matter of, do you see that chunk ball, that 50-50 ball? Will Trayvon Diggs be able to make a play and rip it away from either T. Higgins or Jamar Chase? I don't necessarily think so. I think the Bengals will be able to take care of the ball. And Joe Burrow, no interception in my mind tonight. And then looking at Cooper Rush, again, Dak Prescott was the starter for the majority of this season, so I went and looked at Cooper Rush numbers as a starter and then at this season. So as a starter, Cooper Rush has gone over in 4 of his 10 starts. He is 2-2 this season on that pass attempts at 35.5. 23.5 completions, plus money if you go in the over. He is 2-2 this season, only gone over in 3 of his 10 starts as a quarterback for the Cowboys. His passing yardage, 235.5. He's gone over in 4 of 6, again, 2-2 this season. His passing touchdowns is that 1.5. He's gone over in 3 of the 10 as a starter, only 1 of the 4 this season. His interceptions, Cooper Rush has actually been able to take care of the football, only throwing an interception in 3 of his 10 starts, and only once in his 4 starts this season. He did have a different interception in a game that Dak left prior to the one that he got hurt and left for the season. But yes, 1 in 3 this season is Cooper Rush to the yes on the interception. 0-10 on his anytime touchdown. Don't see any value there. And then his longest completion, that 33.5 yards. He is 6-4 to the over as a starter, has 3 straight overs this season, and did go under in his first start this year. But again, 3 straight overs for that longest completion for Cooper Rush at 33.5 yards tonight.
You know, we're at the point here where, since I think this is going to be a Bonko over game, where I have no problem taking, like, we're going to need Cooper Rush to have a big night if this game's going to be a crazy over game.
And
or
against this Bengals defense, that's fully capable.
Or he's going to have to throw an interception, at least one of them. So I like the interception prop with Rush tonight. Okay. I like Rush over his attempts as well, because I think Dallas is going to be chasing. Those would be the quarterback ones I'd look at on the Rush side. And quite frankly, if you like this game over, you probably need Cooper Rush to throw 2 touchdowns as well. Yep. So all these correlated here tonight. On the Bengal end of things, Jamar Chase's longest reception is 25.5. Now, all I'm going to say is I don't like saying easy money because we're tempting fate whenever we say that. But that seems very low with Chase against this defense. So I like Chase over 25.5 on his longest reception. I like Higgins as well over on that. Did Isavas have one as well, Ryan? I'll pull it up real quick. But I want to go, again, with the Cincinnati wide receivers, I want to go over as many of these as humanly possible. Isavas is only 13.5. That's another one. I just want to be attacking this Dallas defense in any way which possible. And 26.5 on Chase is, look, I get it. It doesn't really go much higher than that when we're talking about this prop. Yeah. But it feels super, super low. And against this defense in particular for Chase, that's my favorite one on the board, over 26.5 on that.
Yeah, I mean, when you have these 3 guys, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, in prime time, you have to think the fireworks are going to fly. So I don't have a problem with you going on the over of that longest reception, especially because both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins have gone over their longest reception in 3 straight games. Jamar Chase has gone over that 26.5 in 8 of 12 this season, so 8-4, 3 straight overs. And T. Higgins has played in 7 games this year, 4-3 to his over 23.5, and again 3 straight overs for T. Higgins. So the Bengals offense is finding their stride, and these receivers are producing. Let me add on to that note just real quick. So Jamar Chase, looking at his receptions at 6.5, which is a very high number, but he has gone over in 5 of the 12 this season. With that being said, those 4 of which were in the last 5 games. So gone over in 4 of the last 5. The Cowboys have allowed the wide receiver 1 for their opponent to go over in 7 of their 12 games. Looking at Jamar Chase's 82.5 receiving yards, he's gone over in, again, 5 of the 12 this season. Only over in 2 of the last 7 games, though. But with that being said, the Cowboys have allowed the wide receiver 1 to go over in 9 of 12 games this season. So I'm expecting a field day from Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, being that T. Higgins has gone over that reception prop of 5.5 in 4 of his 7 and has 31 targets in the last 3 games. So average over 10 targets in each of the last 3. And then that 72.5 receiving yards, he's gone over in 4 of the 7 this season. So I do like both T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow to have a very big night tonight.
Cowboy-wise, really, I don't have much of anything here on these 3 that we really went after. The one interesting one, and I forgot to mention this in the anytime touchdown, Brandon Cooks is probably a good bet at plus 310 on the anytime touchdown if you wanted an individual one. Now, what makes him a little bit complex is how much will his usage be? Will his usage only be red zone? Will he have anything outside of the red zone? Because 28.5 feels a little bit low on the receiving yards for Brandon Cooks. Not on the graphic, but just throwing this out there in general. Lamb catches, boy, I wish that was 5.5 and just take the juiced 5.5 as opposed to 6.5. But again, it's all going to be dependent on the quarterback. And again, if we somehow see Trey Lance in this game, oh boy, then your Dallas props are in a lot of trouble here, Ryan.
Yeah. Starting with Rico Dowdle, his 15.5 attempts, he's only gone over in 3 of his 11 this season. He has gone over in back-to-back games, and the Bengals have allowed their opponents, RB1s, to go over in 8 of their 12 matchups. And then the same thing with their rushing yards. Bengals opponents have gone over in 8 of their 12 matchups. But for Rico Dowdle, he's only gone over that 7. He's gotten at least 70 yards in 4 of the 11 games that he has played in this season. Back-to-back overs for him. And then taking a look at his receptions, that 2.5, 7 and 4 to the over. Back-to-back overs in 5 of the last 6. And the Bengals allowed 6 catches last week to Najee Harris, who is not the pass-catching running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I would expect Rico Dowdle to be able to get a good amount of the dump-off passes from Cooper Rush, especially when Cooper does love the short and intermediate routes compared to the deeper ones. And then taking a look at CeeDee Lamb, yes, I would be much more inclined to take 5.5 than 6.5. 6 and 4 over this season, 6 straight overs, has 7 targets in every game this season. 67.5 receiving yards, 5 and 7 this year, back-to-back unders. The Bengals have allowed the opposing wide receiver to go over their receiving yards in 11 of 12 this season. The only time they didn't was in Week 1 against the Patriots, who didn't really have a wide receiver one that early in the season. So not a great history with the Cowboys offense specifically going to CeeDee Lamb. They pepper him with short yardage targets. Ever since Cooper Rush took over, he only has 1 game with over 10 yards per route or per target. Every other one's been there. He's had 2 right around 6, which is his lowest output of his career, and then 1 right around 8. So CeeDee Lamb not getting the depth of target that he's used to, and that he should be getting as a real wide receiver 1 in this league. So Cowboys offense hasn't been able to get it there, but the Bengals defense has been great at allowing receivers to go over. So if you like CeeDee Lamb or you need CeeDee Lamb in fantasy this week, I would think that he goes over for you on that receiving yards because the Bengals defense allows it at such a high rate. And then looking at Jake Ferguson, I know I said that I like Luke Schoonmaker to score the touchdown tonight, but Jake Ferguson is going to be the tight end 1. He's gone over that 4.5 catches in 5 of his 9 games this season. Bengals opponents are 9 and 3 to the over to tight ends this season, but 2 of those 3 unders have come in the last 4 weeks. So be a little wary when betting tight ends tonight against the Bengals. That 40 receiving yards, Jake Ferguson has gone over in 4 of his 9. The Bengals have allowed over in 10 of 12. The 2 tight ends that they held under, Travis Kelce and Brock Bowers.
Sure.
Because that makes sense. The 2 guys that you need to shut down for their offense to be shut down, they did. But when CeeDee Lamb is more of a focal point for this Cowboys offense, I don't know if they're going to be able to shut down Jake Ferguson the way that they did those guys.
And coming off injury for Ferguson as well. That's why I think you also liked your Schoonmaker anytime touchdown earlier. The Bengals struggling against the tight end position so far this year. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll bring Vinny in. Our thoughts on the college football bracket as a whole, and also what's going on tonight, and also get more from Vinny on the NFL as well. When we get back, Sports by the Book Football Frenzy here on a Monday.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
We're back in at Sports by the Book Football Frenzy. Jeff Parles, Joe Burrow, Ryan McCormick, and Vincenzo. Vinny Magliulo is here.
What happened to your Bears jersey?
The exact same thing that happened to the offense on Sunday. It doesn't
Oh,
exist anymore.
This Sunday. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Too soon. Too soon, Ryan. I know.
The Bears had as many yards of offense in the first half as the size of this table yesterday against the Niners. Not good. Did not get the post-interim bump, or post-firing bump, I should say.
Yeah.
No bueno on that. No. Ryan, before we start talking with Vinny, the chat active as always here today.
Yeah, we do have a bunch of good action going on in the chat. We had Laulea in there early. We had
Laulea was not happy with you for whatever reason.
Well, he actually. Where did it go? What are we doing?
Oh, I got you here, Ryan. Blade Nicotero was in there as well. Like Turpin anytime touchdown. We still don't know who that is. It's not Frank. We know that.
Yeah.
Roger Long's in there. Jamel. I think Jamel's a new one, right? Jamel,
Yeah,
first time in for Jamel. Thinks Georgia has an easy path, which is interesting because I'm not so sure about that. But if you don't like Notre Dame and you don't like Penn State, I guess that makes a little bit of sense, right, Ryan?
Yeah. Well, his actual comment was Notre Dame is just like Penn State. Neither of them show up in big games. So with that, this ultimately all being big games, that would not be good for them. But we do have Roger Long in there, Bob Custer. We got Billy B. Bootmaker.
Ooh, that's a new one too.
Letting us know the Bengals roll. Ben Florence is in there.
Yeah, well, that Flo is probably saying some nonsense, right?
Hashtag Henderson Parles.
Yeah, there we go. That makes absolutely no sense. It's gibberish. So there you go. But it's I'll just say this real quick. With tonight's game, by the way, we also had the poll, Ryan. Simpsons game, 70.
Two different ones.
Okay, Now here's my question: how do we only have 99% of the vote in the one? 78% to 21%. What happened to the other percent?
AI
Breakage.
AI is intelligent.
Yeah, that is interesting. We'll call it 79% on Cincinnati and 21% on Dallas. And then Jamar Chase is everyone's favorite anytime touchdown bet today at 44% of the vote. And I agree with the 44% of the vote, even though we are laying a price. All right, Vinny.
What's up?
Let's start with tonight's game first.
Yeah.
You said it on Friday, and credit to you, at least at this shop, with all the people in for the rodeo, that the Dallas Cowboys would get bet. And sure, the Dallas Cowboys have been bet here at this property over the last few days.
They are loyal
Yes.
fans. They're certainly not going to bet on the Bengals. And right now the Bengals are down to a 4.5-point favorite at South Point. The game opened 6 and was 5.5 for the better part of the weekend, up until even last night. But more money coming in overnight and this morning and today on the Cowboys. America's team here at the South Point, and right now 4.5. And the total, I think I said too that the total would go up, and it has. It's up to 51. No real surprise, right, with these two teams. So right now it's about the dog and over, not a correlation, but Nice split.
Let's half of it's a Nicotero with the over. The other.
Oh, well, you know which.
Well, actually, it probably would be Frank. Well, actually, who does Frank dislike more, the Cowboys or probably the least defensive of the three AFC North teams in comparison for the Steelers?
Oh, I don't know. I think I don't know if it would quite be an entry, but you know that he had no love for the Cowboys, and in this particular matchup, probably more disdain for the Cowboys. But you know he's going to root for both these teams tonight if you bet the over.
Oh, well, yeah, of course.
Right.
So yesterday we talked about this a little bit with Chris.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to bring this up. Somehow we had the second middling of the book of the week yesterday. Jets.
God, that makes you feel so bad, doesn't it? I could tell how upset.
Well, it's just kind of hilarious that Jets Dolphins landed 6, mostly because the Jets are clueless, but we knew this already. But
Jeff, the words. Let me just correct you.
Yes.
When you can't say the words middling and hilarious in the same sentence in the presence of a bookmaker. But go ahead, please continue.
Well, I don't even know how to continue after that, honestly. But I'll say this: we talked about with Chris on the onset. The Rams and the Bills game was the game of the day, and the Rams win as an underdog. Mm-hmm. But we haven't talked about last night yet, where Kansas City again we have always, the old saying is a bad team finds a way to lose, and they find creative ways to lose. Kansas City's the complete antithesis of this, where they're finding creative ways to win here. They did not cover last night again. Matthew Wright, with one of the loudest doinks I've ever heard, somehow manages to go through the uprights, and KC wins by 2, covers no numbers. And the game was a dead under the whole way as well.
Yeah, well, let's face it. With the Chiefs, you have the best coach and quarterback combination / relationship in the league. Yeah. I mean, that's why they're going for an unprecedented three-peat. They do what they have to do. Next man up occurs. So, culturally, this is who they are. And again, we keep hearing, wow, it's kind of scary because they're not playing their best football. Well, maybe this is who they are. I mean, maybe they are playing their best football because they just keep winning. So you have to pay close attention to that. Now, they certainly, they get everything going their way. They create that. But at some point, particularly when you get in the postseason, you would think it could catch up, right? I mean, 3 kickers with the same types of results, too, by the way. Unprecedented in league history.
So you just mentioned it. The Chiefs are the first team in NFL history to have 3 different kickers in the same season.
Right.
Kick a field goal with triple zeros on the clock.
That's it.
Forget the first team with 3 different kickers. They're the first team ever with 2 different kickers to do that.
So now I think Butker's supposed to come back towards the end of the year, right?
The expectation for right now is that Butker will be ready to kick in the postseason for sure. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of will they test it late in December or not.
Can they?
Yeah.
Very favorable schedule, the way things are playing out in terms of having home field advantage, right? So, but, they keep creating their breaks, but you wonder, does it catch up to them, these types of scenarios, when you get to the postseason? They are masters of creativity on offense in particular, which helps them beat the clock, not just manage the clock, but beat the clock at the end of games. I thought it was a little bit of a roll of the dice last night by Andy Reid going. Remember, he had 2 downs because they had first and 10 from was it the 19 when Mahomes hit Kelsey for that first down. They basically just ran the clock out. Now you're really banking on this new kicker to do exactly what you just said, Jeff. Right? Come in as the third kicker in the season to do that. I thought they might have tried to run the ball a little bit. So you wonder if some of those things do catch up at some point. But the reality is this. They are the Super Bowl favorites because they have been there. They know what it takes to win close games, and they're going to have home field advantage in all likelihood. The only way they don't is if, let's say, the Bills, who have a much tougher schedule down the stretch. Let's remember Buffalo's in Detroit this week.
Yep.
If the Bills run the table, they would need the Chiefs to lose 2 games because they have the tiebreaker head-to-head.
Yep.
But think about it. The Chiefs have 4 games left, right?
Yes.
Kansas City is plays Cleveland, then Houston, then the Steelers, then the Broncos. It's not the easiest of schedules.
No.
There's 3 playoff teams mixed
Right.
in there, but they're going to be favored in all 4 of the games.
Yeah. So if they go 3-1,
It's over.
it's over.
Yeah. And I think they will go
Playoff.
3-1.
And so now they're probably going to be close games,
What makes you say that, Vinny?
because that's what the Chiefs do. That's what they do.
By the way, real quick, from Greer NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm stunned by this, the Chiefs are on a 7-game ATS losing streak right now.
Oh, against the spread, you're
7 straight.
Yeah.
Somehow they've won 6 straight games in that stretch. They've won 6 of those 7 games. Only the 07 Patriots have matched that.
The Chiefs continue to also, for the most part, get bet against. Now, yesterday, I'm sure Chris mentioned it was a pretty big money line bet on the Chiefs, but for the most part, we need the Chiefs to cover, and they haven't, which is unusual. But we started to see that last year. But look, I have a buddy of mine who's a Chiefs fan, and he bets against them every week. He's like living in paradise. He says they just keep winning.
And I keep winning
And
money.
he keeps winning money. How about this guy?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's finding El Harry and Smith.
Yeah.
So there we go. Very good. Very good, Ryan. I do want to ask about Detroit and Buffalo real quick for this weekend, because this is a mega game anyway that you slice it. And I'm going to be honest with you. Yesterday was a little bit alarming for me on the Buffalo side. Forget the offensive thing. We know how great Allen was, but the Rams, when they're clicking, is a top flight offense.
Yes.
And Buffalo really hasn't, and yes, I know people probably yell at me with Kansas City, but Kansas City has not been a top flight offense this year. Neither is San Francisco. And the only other top flight offense this team has truly played is Baltimore. And Baltimore sliced them and diced them earlier in the year.
They did.
Now they play another top flight offense. And look, Josh Allen should be the MVP of the league to me. But I'm a little bit concerned going into this weekend playing another high-end offense, how that Buffalo defense will hold up for a second consecutive week. And I don't think they're going to hold up well in this one.
That's a great point because, look, the thing about the Bills is because of Josh Allen and their offense, they're never out of a game. Okay, they're down 2 scores yesterday, right? And you can see
17 in that game in the third quarter, late.
So that's offensively, you don't have to really be concerned. But when you get to the playoffs, you've got to be able to defend. Now, Milano's back, and still look what happened yesterday. I mean, the Rams' offensive line was outstanding. You've got the combination, of Stafford, right, and Kyron Williams. You got Kupp, and you've got Nakua. That's a nightmare for any team to deal with. And that offensive line is really doesn't get the credit that it deserves. But that's the reason. That's a byproduct, right, of those guys' success is a byproduct of that great offensive line. At some point, the Bills are going to have to defend, and now you're going up against the best team, really, by some. When you look at power rating, the top team, because the Lions are rated ahead of the Chiefs because they could score, but their depth is something that is amazing. Both sides of the ball, they've had injuries on both sides of the ball, and you talk about not only a next man up mentality, but a next man up result. We've seen it, right? So they too have proven, as they did last week, that if it's a shootout, they can adjust, right? The game with the Packers last week, similar to not as many points, but surely it flew over with the Packers. So, look, the teams that can win in multiple ways are the ones that are dangerous. But at some point, you have to look and say, okay, who's scoring points, but who's playing the best defense? You could probably make a case right now for the Eagles playing the best defense, but I think that maybe that's because that defensive unit is healthier too.
Well, the Eagles were fortunate yesterday. If Legette makes that play, Philadelphia has to drive the field to win.
I hear you.
Getting field goal
but
range.
that's what happened to the Chiefs the week before.
Look, Vinny, I agree with you. And again, I'm not changing my power rankings off of yesterday. I think we've kind of seen what Philadelphia is doing this year, where Philadelphia now 3 home games against bottom feeders have not come close to covering any of them.
Yeah.
And again, that will probably change when the Giants go there at the end of the year, but that's a different discussion for a different time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just what they are. They play down, they play up, Philadelphia, and that honestly is not a terrible thing when you get to the postseason if you're able to play both up and down when it's all said and done.
And you know what? Since the benching, what's Bryce Young done?
Bryce Young's been great.
Right? Very more than serviceable.
Bright. There is a legitimate argument to be made that Bryce Young has had a better season than C.J. Stroud this year, even with the benching included. There's an argument to be had. I'm not saying it's right, but there is an argument post benching that it's not close post benching. The only reason would be that Young was so bad the first 2 weeks that he had to be benched. All right, Vinny, I want to ask you about we'll go for a few more minutes here.
Yeah.
College football playoff.
Yep.
Well, thankfully I brought this up with Chris that do the exactas again, like you do for the World Series.
Exactas are popular. Sure.
I think those would be very popular in this. But these first-round playoff games, look, I think at the beginning of the season, no one would have expected, these 4 first-round games are going to be all north of a touchdown. But here we are right now, sitting in that exact scenario right now.
Well, when you look at the games, okay, and Notre Dame opened as a 9-point favorite. Again, that's on the 20th.
Yes,
of this month,
the 19th or the 20th, Friday the 20th.
And then now it's down to 8 total on that game, 50.5. No movement on the next 2, which are the next 3 games of the following day. Penn State's holding steady as an 8-point favorite against SMU. Texas 11-point favorites over Clemson, and Ohio State's now up to 8. They laid 7 and 7.5 at home against Tennessee. And again, for the folks listening and watching, those are home games. Those are home sites. Those are the only home sites for the playoffs. And then of course you've got 4 teams on a bye: Arizona State, Oregon, Boise, and Georgia. So, it's going to be the games will be very well bet. I mean, they're very strong. I mean, and as strong as we've seen any college football games over the years. Right? You got 11 playoff games this year, right? Once you get through these 4. Then you've got 4 more, then 2, and then the championship game. So we're going to give them the kind of respect that they deserve, and that is to book them like NFL playoff games. So it's good. You've got some good storylines. You've got some classic blue bloods, if you will, and then you've got some surprises. I think certainly Arizona State and SMU in particular are surprises. And Boise, people knew that Boise was a good team, but I don't think anybody really figured that they would be in the 12th going into the season, and so you've got a little bit of everything here, and I think that's going to add to the appeal.
Well, I would say so. Where the biggest thing with Boise is no one expected the non-power conference bid that's automatic would get a bye, and forget getting a bye. Forget getting a bye. They got the 3 seed.
They got the 3 seed. I mean, think about it. They're a higher seed than Arizona State, who won the Big 12.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if that was right, but look, in the end, they retained their spot. They beat a top 20 team in the final week of the season in UNLV. It is kind of crazy to look at it where Arizona State picked last in the ACC or in the Big 12 going into the year. Indiana, an afterthought. if they got 6 wins, I'm sure people would have been happy in Bloomington. And here, both of them are in the college football playoff.
And less than a month ago, Clemson was dead, right? They were on the outside looking in.
How about forget less than a month ago? How about in the middle of the first quarter, 9 days ago, when Miami's up 14-0 on Syracuse 4 minutes into the game?
Yeah.
It was over.
And then, of course, Clemson lost to South Carolina,
Right.
so their season's done.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah, no, but it's look, if it'll be very interesting to see. I know I will be on one underdog for sure in this first weekend. I'm just curious to see how high that number gets, more so than anything. They'll have to hold until later in the week on this because I have to. It's one of the orange team dogs. That's all I'll just say.
Well,
which will leave it to Tennessee or Clemson. So good luck.
I don't want to ruin your tease, but knowing you, I think you're going to be looking for points. So I will go with the bigger one. I will say
very well. Maybe right, Vinny.
You'll be on.
You might be
on Clemson, but
you might be on those Clemson Tigers. Even though I don't think they're all that good.
It's not about. It's about the number.
Yeah, it sure is. All right. It's already after 4:00. Real quick. I just have to bring this up because it would have been wrong of me not to. Juan Soto signs the biggest contract in the history of North American sports. Mm-hmm. How does that impact the futures book in Major League Baseball?
Well, I think so. It certainly you have to lower the Mets, and I think if anybody felt that from a betting standpoint, if you felt that Steve Cohen was not going to be outbid, which some people did, then you had to go look for the Mets last week at like 15-1.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously now it's probably cut in half, and so understandably so. Now that said, a couple of things. You've got to also probably raise the Yankees, even though if you lower a team in one league, you would raise a team within their division. But the Soto loss to the Yankees is significant.
Yes.
I would argue, and I know this will sound crazy to some, as great as Soto is, and the addition to the Mets is obviously a gigantic deal. You'll have to see how the rest of that offseason is. The damage to the Yankees is so much more than the positivity for the Mets with this.
Well, because first of all, it's going to impact Judge.
It impacts Judge. It
Right.
impacts. Well, I mean, look at
and the rest of the team.
lineup. Look at their lineup last year was if Judge or Soto doesn't do anything,
Yeah.
except for when Giancarlo got hot in the playoffs. Yep.
But Giancarlo wasn't even healthy for a good part of the season.
And
Giancarlo's not going to get younger. The other thing you have to look at, though, from a future betting standpoint is, so you say, okay, let's start with the Mets.
Sure.
If Steve Cohen, if the checkbook is that open, right?
Yeah.
He should. No, this is not being a fan. This is what makes sense in this day and age of baseball. You should go out and re-sign. Make sure you keep Alonso.
Right.
Because you need 2 big bats. Yes. Look at what the Dodgers did. Look at the most successful teams. You need 2 bombers. And you can't say it's Vientos yet. You can't say it's Lindor. You need Alonso, okay? And a couple of more arms. But now, so from a future standpoint, keep looking around and watch what's happening now with the baseball winter meetings. Who do you think is going to be a player? Some teams that are not going to be involved, but it's the ripple effect of the Soto signing is. Listen, the Mets are still. Let's face it. The Phillies are still good, and so are the Braves. The Braves are always going to be good, and they're going to be healthier going into the season. So it's not like the Mets. You could say that you may as well just pencil them in as even National League East champs yet because they've got to produce, and there's still some other pieces that have to be put into place, and more so, I think, on the mound than in a position,
especially to be able to combat the Dodgers.
And of course,
you have to be able to.
The Dodgers kept busy too.
What did I tell you when I walked in the other day? Like after my other comment that I don't feel like talking about on the air, the whole deal now is just make the playoffs in this format. Like there's a real shot that Atlanta was so hurt last year. Atlanta can win 100 games next year.
No question.
There's no doubt on that.
And it's a great organization with great depth.
And the last thing I'll bring up before we get out of here, because I think we've talked more baseball in this segment than we have the whole year on Football Frenzy. The American League at this point, in comparison to the NL, I think there's a legitimate argument to be had that the top 6 teams in the National League, before anything has happened this offseason, are all better than the top team in the American League, whoever that may be at this point. Because the Yankees are way worse today than they were 2 days ago, assuming if Soto went back. The Astros said today they might trade Kyle Tucker, who was their best offensive player.
They're going to probably lose Bregman.
They're going to lose Bregman,
right?
I mean, Detroit, all right. Was that just a 2-month aberration? We don't know. Kansas City, same deal.
Young.
The Orioles win a playoff series before taking consideration. That league is super.
Cleveland, you can make it. But to your point, Jeff, absolutely right. The National League overall, the top 6 teams in the National League are stronger than the top 6 teams in the American League.
If Ryan's Cubbies ever decide to do anything,
to open the checkbook,
it'll be the top 7.
I have to tell you right now, everybody's checkbook is going to have to be a lot fatter. In every sport, by the way.
My only thing about Soto getting 765 is that Shohei got 700.
Sure.
He hits and pitches.
Right.
Soto hits, is not that great of an outfielder.
Wait a second.
He's about to become a DH in the next 6 years, and you're paying him $50+ million.
Hold on a second, Ryan. The man was a Gold Glove finalist this past season.
Well, yeah, but you still watch him miss play balls over and over and over again.
I agree with you 100%. You have no argument for me on
that. And by the way, he's got an opt-out after
5.
To get even more money. Look, this is the argument that will be the case where people without the money in their ownership groups, or for the Cubs' perspective or other teams' perspectives, the unwillingness to not spend at a level that you should be able to or can. But look, as long as there's no salary cap, free market principles, and Soto got exactly what he got. What?
Did you look at Met tickets yet, by the way?
No, because I have to figure out when I'm going home first, or when they are in California. That would be probably.
I can tell you this: wherever you go, they start at, I want to say about 115, which is. You'll be sitting in the men's room, and go up to about 1,500. So I'm just
that's a good seat.
I'm just letting you know.
So all right. Well, since we went about 10 over here,
that's all right. Quality.
Real quick, 4.5. Hey, you guys just got bet to the under upstairs. How about that? The 50.5 on the total on tonight's game. Good luck if you're betting the under. That's all I'll say on this one here tonight with the Bengals and the Cowboys. Vinny, thank you. Ryan, thank you. Everyone in the chat, thank you. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again on this show. Actually, we will see you again 1 week from today on this show. This upcoming Thursday, Football Frenzy will actually be at 9 a.m. this week. We're going to do a morning version of it. Our friend Dwayne Colucci will join us, and we'll give you the full week ahead in football at 9 a.m. on Thursday on Football Frenzy right here on Sports by the Book on YouTube. We'll see you again next time.